Good morning, everyone. Today's the 13th of November. It's Wednesday morning. And I have a question for you this morning. Are you cantankerous? Are you cantankerous? The definition of cantankerous is someone who's always finding something to argue about or complain about. Well, at my dad's memorial service, one of the speakers, I won't mention who it was, but one of the speakers stated that my father was known for being cantankerous. Someone who's difficult or irritating to deal with. Well, I can tell you one of the reasons my dad was so cantankerous, and I can tell you firsthand, I had a lot of respect for my father. My father was not so open-minded that his brains fell out. Okay. He definitely was not woke. Okay. He definitely was not woke. And because he stood for things that were not in the majority, he was considered an oddball or cantankerous. I'm kind of considered an oddball. I don't mind people calling me. A guy sent me an email one time and he says, "You're one of those old fuddy-duddies. You're just a fuddy-duddy." I don't mind being called a fuddy-duddy. I think all of this wokeness has woke a lot of people up. I think there's the reason so many people in this last election took a departure from where they used to be and stand is because they got sick and tired of all the wokeness. All the, you gotta be tolerant of this. You don't have to be tolerant of certain things. In fact, we're told in the Bible we should be intolerant of certain things. Now, I'm not advocating to be rude, or I'm not advocating to be hard to get along with, or unloving, or unkind. Luther was considered brash when he started coming against the Roman Catholic Church and their selling of indulgences. He was very, very curt in the way he expressed himself, and a lot of people criticized him over his bad manners. Okay. But if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of standing for something rather than not standing for anything. Oh, well, you just got to get along with everybody. The Bible says, as much as possible, live peaceably with all men. When people start advocating things that are contrary to the Bible, when they start advocating things that are absolutely ludicrous, then we need to take a stand against it. There's a lot of people out there that don't want to talk about certain subjects. It's non grata, or whatever they call it. Don't even talk about it. Don't talk about predestination. Don't talk about election. Don't talk about the fact that Christ said, "I'm the first and the last." Don't talk about the unchangeable nature of God. Don't talk about the fact that God's people are a fixed number that cannot be added to or taken away from. Don't talk about that. Just give everybody the feel-good message. Just make them feel good. Well, there's certain things that make me feel good. Like the old saying goes, if you eat too much ice cream, just having ice cream all the time isn't good for you. I love sugar stuff, and it's not necessarily good for me. I love Little Debbie's. I love chocolate graham cracker cookies. I love chocolate cake. But if that's all you eat, then that's not good for you, is it? So are you cantankerous? Maybe you need to be a little bit more cantankerous. I'm glad my dad was cantankerous. I'm glad he stood up against Zionism. I'm glad he stood up against those who held to universal atonement. I'm glad he stood up against those who proclaimed that, that a lot of false doctrines, and he took a stand against it. And because he took a stand against it, I can remember those times when he stood up against these teachers. It had an impact on me. So I'm grateful for the times that my dad was, quote, cantankerous. Have you ever noticed if you don't agree with somebody, start putting names on it? Fuddy-duddy, cantankerous, intolerant, bigot, on and on and on it goes, and where it stops nobody knows. The people that call my dad cantankerous were some of the most intolerant people I've ever met in my life. I mentioned that I had a Bible teacher one time. He was the president of a Bible college, and he was my Bible teacher, and he gave me a D- in Bible. My dad knew what was going on. He didn't fault me because he knew what that guy was teaching. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts this morning. Don't be so open-minded your brains fall out. Take a stand for the right things. Some people, have you ever met someone that's so wishy-washy you don't know where they stood for on anything? They would just like put your finger up in the air and see which way the wind's blowing, right? Well, I want to be known for taking a stand for truth. May the good Lord be with you this morning is my prayer. God bless.